fellow members. The first time that I realised that I was doing more than just giving a riding lesson was about a year after I'd started giving Catherine riding lessons on her mum's horse, Humbug. And I went there one day and Catherine said to me, "Mum's not very happy with me." And I went, "What's the problem?" She said, "Well, I've decided after all these lessons you've been giving me that I want to leave my husband." What? And where I've been teaching her about a relationship with a horse, she had realised that she was not happy in her relationship with her husband. And that was quite an eye-opener for me, because I realised then that there was more to horses than just riding them. So, fast forward a little bit, I started running an equine assisted therapy centre, and I had horses of my own, and I knew their personalities, so I could go out into the field and they would step in line with me and I'd go, "Okay, I got the message." So I'm going to tell you about this centre that I was running with a friend of mine at the time. And there was one lad that came to the centre. His name was Martin. He was 14 or 15 and he went to a special school in Swindon for behavioural problems, and he was on Ritalin. So he was hard work. And when he was on the 3-day children's course, I was continually going, "Martin, stop doing that. Martin, stop doing that. Martin, stop doing that. Martin, stop doing that." So when his parents booked him onto the 5-day children's course, I went, "Ah!" like you would. And I just thought, okay, I've got to flip this round. I don't want to be nagging him for 5 days. He wouldn't want to be nagged for 5 days. How am I going to make this work? And I even phoned up his class teacher and I spoke with his parents and I said, "I want to set him at a challenge for the week so that it's something he can work toward." And they all thought this was a good idea. One of my horses was called Fresco. Fresco was an amazing horse, very intelligent. Somebody called him dyslexic once. I think that could be the truth. And so at the beginning of the 5-day children's course, I had Fresco, and I was showing the children about how you can get them to move their shoulders away from you, move their quarters away, get them to walk backward, get them to come forward, and things like that, just generally. And I then said, and I looked at Martin and I said, "By the end of this week, I want you doing it with this horse." And Fresco was really quite a magnificent horse. He was about sort of this size, so it was quite a thing. So he stood there holding this horse while the other children go off and find their ponies or whatever. And Martin says, "Why won't he stand still?" And Alison, who I was working with, shared the yard with at the time, she said to him, "Are you standing still?" A bit later on, they had to tie their horses up and brush them off. And I always left them at this stage to just get that connection with their own horse or pony they've been allocated for the week. And I go in and have a cup of coffee. And I come out, and there was Fresco tied up to the fence doing this, which is called weaving. So there's clearly he's a bit stressed. And there's Martin with a dandy brush, and there's the horse's head going that way. Martin's doing this. So I took the brush and I said to Martin, "What's going on here?" And he said, "He's messing me around." And I went, "Really?" I said, "Is there something in you that's feeling a little bit scared?" He went, "No." I went, "Maybe something in you that's haven't been able to work with this amazing horse that you're feeling a little bit worried about." And there was this very quiet, "Yes." And my horse stopped weaving. Seriously, I was just like, whoa. A bit later on, they went into the schooling area, and they each had to be doing, in their own little space, what I'd shown them earlier, getting them to move their shoulders away, getting them to move their quarters away, come to me, walk away, follow me round. But there was Martin and Fresco. Fresco was walking along and kicking a pole. And then Fresco was going along and picking up a pole and chucking it over there. And there was Martin following on going, "Stop it, Fresco! Fresco, stop it!" And I just stood there and smiled inwardly, because that was me at the 3-day children's course when I was saying, "Martin, stop it." He was saying it to Fresco. So again I went up to him and I said, when you're at school and you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing, do you tap your pencil or it's like a walk around the classroom? He went, "Yeah. My horse is telling me that he doesn't know what you want him to do." Over the next 5 days, he improved with that horse. Another classic was when they were having to bring him out of the field, across the car park and into the schooling area, there was Martin and Fresco sort of going this way and that way and that way. And I went, "What's going on?" He said, "He won't come with me." And I made Martin be the horse, and I just walked in a straight line. I said, what Martin was doing was that he'd take a step forward and look back at the horse. And so what Fresco was doing, taking a step forward and looking back. And so they were not making progress across the car park. By the end of that week, he was walking that horse in a straight line across the car park, and he was able to do all of the things that I'd asked him to do in the beginning. And not once did I actually say to him, "Martin, stop doing that." The following week, I spoke with his mother, and she said that he'd actually been poorly the following week because he's never ill, but clearly something had bubbled up, and he'd gone back to school, and he'd gone right up to the top of the reward scheme because his behaviour had improved so much at school. And that was a week interaction with Fresco. I've got time for another anecdote of Fresco, haven't I? We used to run, once a month, equine awareness sessions. And I had this person come to me called Sonia, and again, walking him across the car park, Fresco was doing this and going this way, and we got into the schooling area, and I took hold of Fresco and I went, "What's going on?" And she said, "He's disrespecting me. He's not doing what he should." And I then went, "So what in your life where in your life are you being disrespected?" And she was like, "Oh," you could see her almost recoil. "Me? Oh no, but it's him," sort of thing. Throughout the day, she started opening up about how she didn't feel valued at work, how she was being disrespected at work, and how they were walking all over her at work. The following month she came back again and said that she'd gone back to work and handed her notice in that week because of that minor interaction with that horse. Sadly, he's no longer with me, but he lived with me for 29 years. But he was an amazing horse.